Hey, how's it going, guys? Today we're going to be going over how to use MyFitnessPal properly and track your calories and macros. Plus, I'll give you some rough guides kind of on how to do it. But let me get this set up so that we can see as much of our screen as possible. So when you first sign up with your email address, it's going to take you to this screen, which is basically just your basic information, okay? Don't be too worried about this stuff because if it's off, honestly, it doesn't matter. This is really because it's going to give you targets, but we're going to set those up today anyways. So you just punch that info in and go to sign up. So it's going to ask you some questions here about all this kind of stuff, about your data and all that stuff. What we're entering is really not any big deal, so you can just accept that. I don't want to sign up for emails. I don't want to share any information, so I can just go to continue. It's going to give me calories, like I said before. Don't worry about this screen. You can fiddle with it if you want afterwards, but for right now, honestly, it doesn't matter. And here's where it's going to read you. It'll occasionally plug in their premium version as well. You honestly don't need it. The basic is more than you need. So on your phone, it's going to look a little bit different, and that's where I would normally recommend you track it. But for today, we'll walk through on the computer. It's essentially the same thing. Really, the only screens that we ever need to use is food and then diary section. Because literally all we want to do is track what we're having. And now there's two ways to do this. In the beginning, what I would do for the first week or two is as you're eating things, add them. So say for instance, if today I had eggs for breakfast, I can punch in eggs and search. It's going to come up with a bunch of options here. You're going to notice these little green arrows. That means it's verified. So that information is going to be more accurate than if I come down to one that say not. Like this one says it's only 15 calories. This one says it's 71, right? This is going to be a lot more accurate, okay? So we're going to pick that one. And I'm going to add that to my food diary. I would do the same thing for lunch, for dinner, for any snacks that I had, whatever I'm having during the day, I want to put in there. Try to be as accurate as possible. So weighing your food can be very beneficial here because the more accurate you are, the more accurate you can adjust things, right? If you kind of are just guessing, then like maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. And then it's going to give you your totals for the day, which is really the most important. So if I look here, it shows my total amount of carbs that I've eaten, the total amount of fats that I've eaten, the total amount of protein that I've had, so on and so forth, the total amount of calories, okay? And again, these are the goals that it just has based on that initial information we put in, but that's really not a big deal. When it comes to initial target, a really easy way is take the weight that you want to be and times that by between 10 and 12. So for instance, if I weighed, for easy math, say I weigh 230 pounds right now, but I want to weigh 200. I could take that 200, times it by 10 gives me 2,000, right? So this would be 2,000 calories is my daily total. And then the only other thing we need to do is set a protein goal. For a protein goal, you basically take that number and times it by 0.7 or 70% of it. So 2,000 calories, and I want 140 grams of protein. So I would literally just keep eating food until this was at 2,000 and this was at 140. And then the amount of fats and the amount of carbs that you have can be interchangeable. Don't worry about that as long as it equals 2,000 calories and I get at least 140 grams of protein. So I could keep punching things in as I have them. Say I had chicken next, 4 ounces, add that in. Okay, so now I have my eggs and my chicken, and you'll see it's increasing my totals there. And then let's say for dinner, let's just get some other numbers in here. Let's say I had rice. And again, the more specific you can be, the better. So if this was, say, jasmine rice that I had, that's going to be a lot more accurate than just putting in arbitrary rice. So now it's starting to fill in the other numbers. So now I'm getting some carbs and some fats and some proteins. But remember, hit your total calories, which is times 10 of the weight you want to be. So in this case, 2,000. And I want my protein to be 140, so times 0.7. Those are kind of the two formulas to use in the beginning. And then that's all we really need to track is everything that we're having. Once you get a little bit more advanced, what I would recommend is pre-planning your day in advance the night before so that you know you hit your numbers. Because as you go through it, it can be a little bit more challenging. All of a sudden, it can be the end of the day and you're like, oh crap, I didn't eat enough. Now I got to fit in like 1,000 calories because I was busy. Or maybe you eat all your food and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you don't have anything left. You can kind of screw yourself that way. So what I would do is usually have your go-to meals that you like a lot. and that you know the calories for, because as you start tracking things, it's going to get a little bit more accurate for you because you're going to know what your favorites are, right? So say, for instance, if I'm having this turkey bacon, you can always adjust as well. So say if I adjust this, because I actually had 4 slices. I also want to add in another thing that I love to have is, cream of rice. That's one of my favorites. So let's add that in. And then I'm going to add in blueberries. And I'm going to do a couple blueberries. Perfect. So now I have my breakfast, and you'll notice that this actually gives me my total for that meal as well. So my total calories, carbs, fats, protein, and then it just calculates onto my total for the day as well. And then I'm going to come into my lunch. This is one of my favorite lunches. I'm going to have rice noodles. I'm going to have that. And then I'm going to add in shrimp. So let's add that in. And then I like to do that with eggs. So let's add that in. And then what you'll start to find as well as you go through this, so I'm going to put in 2 eggs, is the things that you frequently search for will start to auto-populate. So it makes this a lot faster. So I usually split my dinner. I have 2. So I'm going to put both into the same one, and then I'm just going to split it in half. So I would actually have 3 of these because I'm going to eat 6 ounces at each meal. So now you'll see it's starting to fill up, right? I'm at 119, half my calories. So my protein's pretty close. I still need to get a little bit more, but my overall calories can still come up a lot. So I have some room there, right? So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add this in as a snack. So let's go whey protein, because I always like to have a shake after my workout. So let's say, I actually work out twice a day, so I'll put 2 scoops in. So if I was looking at for myself, protein-wise, I'm already there. So I'm already where I need to do protein. Now I can basically have whatever else I want to get to that 2,000 calories. So I already know what I would have with this. So, I like to have coconut milk with my shake. Whoops. Yeah, spell it right though. So there's coconut milk. I always get unsweetened because otherwise the calories can really screw you. It's about triple the calories for sweetened ones versus unsweetened. So my smoothies are set, and then I basically can just fill in what I want to have here. I like to have sweet potatoes. So let's put sweet potatoes in. And I usually like to go by weight. So rather than just putting in a 5-inch long one, that's a lot more subjective to like a visual. Whereas if I know it's 100 grams, it's 100 grams, right? There's no goofing around with that. And I'm actually going to edit that because I'll eat more than that because it's going to be for 2 meals. I'm going to do 1.5 servings, gives me 150 grams. Or the easiest way, if you can get things in 1 gram servings, because then you can go exactly to the gram. It just makes it a lot easier, like in your head math-wise. But if you see here, I still have another 410 calories to fiddle around with. So maybe I know that I've eaten enough protein. I've gotten 4 meals plus 2 shakes in, and now I can just kind of round out with whatever. So I haven't really had a lot of veggies in here. So say if I want to add in, usually my go-to is green beans. So let's go to green beans. And calorically, they're pretty low with most green veggies. So it's a good way to kind of bulk things up so that you stay full, because I find I do get really hungry. So we still have 300 or so calories to play with. A really good evening snack that I like is rice cakes. So let's go with rice cakes. Whoops, that's not what I want. I want the big guy. And I'm going to do, no, I don't want that either. So let's find the right one. And you always want to make sure that you're putting in the right one so that it's accurate. So just a nice plain rice cake. There we go. That's more sense. So 2 of those guys. And I still have a little bit left. So I have 178 calories still to play with. And one thing I like to put on there is almond butter. And again, ideally by the gram, but teaspoons we can weigh out too because the serving size will be on there. So let's do that and see where we're at for 2 tablespoons. So I'm very close. So if I'm usually within 50 to 100 calories, depending on the number, I'll be okay with it. So for myself, if it was like 1950 to 2000, that's fine. I just want to make sure I'm not going over. So we could eke this out just a little bit by, say, coming into our sweet potatoes and just bumping that up a little bit. That'll probably put us calorically where we need to be. A little bit more, actually. Sorry. So let's go back to our sweet potatoes. And let's go 180. I'm a hungry guy, so it is okay. And still we're a little bit off. So again, remember I said we kind of want to be within that 50, right? So what else can we bump up a little bit? Let's go to our rice noodles and bump that up just a little. Oops. Forgive me. Whoops. 1.1. There we go. And that should, yeah, there we go. So 1953, 189 grams of protein. And again, the carbs and the fats doesn't matter as much. You'll see that my carbs are at 200, my fats are at 54. In the beginning, it won't matter. As you get further along, it will. And those things start to come into play. And now, obviously, there's a ton of, here, I'm done sharing that so I can put my little speaker window back up. Obviously, there's a ton of factors that come into play of to how many calories you burn a day and how many you can actually eat. So the amount of muscle mass that you have plays a big factor because that's the overall driver of metabolism. What your things are doing hormonally, insulin sensitivity issues, any number of things can affect how many calories you need to eat to lose weight. But in the end, you do have to be in a deficit to lose. There, again, are things you can do to affect that, like exercise, all that kind of stuff. When it comes to workouts, I don't like to put those into the equation as to far as calculating calories. So I don't want to be like, oh, well, I'm going to do 1,000-calorie workout tomorrow so I can make that room up with food. I don't like to do that. I just like to stick with the food itself because the workouts can always change. And maybe you didn't work as hard that day. Maybe you worked more hard. It's very hard to track those things. So I would rather track the stuff that I know we can do concretely, which is the nutrition. And then you add the workouts on top because that's only going to be like kind of 10% of it anyways. Nutrition is always 90% of the battle when you're trying to lose weight. If you need help on this, definitely reach out to me. I would be more than happy to, but hopefully this gives you a really good idea kind of how to get started on tracking calories and macros and a couple good guides. Remember, goal weight times between 10 and 12, and then 70% of that number equals protein target. So 200 pounds is my goal, 2,000 calories, 140 grams of protein. If 100 pounds is my goal, 1,000 calories, 70 grams of protein. You will find initially for almost every single person, especially females, which is going to be most of you, it's very hard to hit your protein goal initially. Shakes are a really good way to get up there. If dairy doesn't bug you, Greek yogurt is another really good option to really get protein up in a hurry, and as well as egg whites because they don't have a lot of other calories with them. There's just a lot of protein there, okay? So focus on those things and reach out if you need help.